Peace to the planet Earth. You know what it is. You know what I'm saying? The Black Dragon of the West Star. And I'm chilling and I have Dayanara Thompson on. She is from Eyewit Wellness. And she is someone I used to mentor and still do. It's kind of true. Like we met when? What year was it?
I was like 16, so almost 10 years ago.
Yeah. She was one of the rowdy girls she was, you know, she wasn't like in the trouble, but she was always near it. She was like, if the trouble was right here, she'd be like right there. She'd be like right there. And like, so she wasn't really busted, but somehow you knew she had a hand in it.
I was slick with it in peace. She never started it, always finished it.
That's right. You know what I'm saying? Bob and weave, you know what I'm saying? There were no cameras. You know what I'm saying?
Full of my surroundings.
Exactly. So, but no, she's grown into a fantastic young woman who is doing all kinds of medical stuff and all kinds of healing stuff and all types of activism stuff. And I was like, you know what, man? I need to bring her on Bishop Chronicles. So welcome.
Thank you for having me. Like, I'm totally honored, totally listen every week. So to be on the platform, like, thank you, Adisa. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
I'm nervous now. I'm even more nervous than I was. But I'm nervous because, you know what? I'm so happy about the things that you do with Eyewit Wellness. Can you talk for a minute about the purpose of Eyewit Wellness?
Yeah, so when I turned 18 after I graduated from O'Connell, I decided to become an EMT just because at a really, really young age, I became the caregiver for my grandparents. And my grandfather's Black from Jamaica and my grandmother's Guatemalan. So just kind of seeing how they were both treated in the healthcare system, it would always kind of hurt me where it was just like, no, this isn't what they're saying, or no, this isn't what they need. And just like kind of seeing all the breaks within the system, I was like, okay, I want to do something to change it. So just kind of being a product of my environment, I didn't really see the bigger picture or what I could achieve. So I was like, okay, I want to help my community. I need to figure out a way to help my community. So I became a GED tutor. And then I also started becoming an EMT. I was like, okay, I'm going to help people in health. And when I became an EMT, I saw how broken the system was. Like when I first started, we did the academy for 2 weeks, like hardcore academy. And then when I was going through the academy, I remember one of the days, they're like, oh, we're going to do diversity training. And I was like so excited. I was like, oh, we're gonna do diversity training. Like, cool, I'm gonna see how to take care of my people. It's lit. Whoop de whoop whoop. I sat in the front row. I had my notes out. I was so excited, right? And they first started off, and the person who was leading it, he was about I want to say in his 60s, older white gentleman. He came to the front and he's like, okay, he's like, I've been an EMT, I've been a paramedic. He's like, if you don't take care of yourselves, you guys are going to end up dead. He's like, your number one priority is making sure your partner gets home every day alive. Then your second priority is making sure you come home every day alive. And I remember just sitting there and I was like, yeah, like we understand what it is to be an EMT and different situations that might occur. But I was like, why are you bringing it up with race? He was like, okay, let's go ahead and break it down. He was like, this is going to keep you alive. He's like, we're going to start with Black people first. He's like, every Black person is a heroin addict. He's like, everyone has needles in their pockets, like, not knives. He's like, so if you ever have a Black patient, he's like, they need to be restrained. He's like, and I was sitting there and I looked back and everybody's taking notes. I'm like, ain't nobody in my family doing heroin.
What is happening?
It's like, and I was like, people are taking notes. And I'm like, what? And he's like, let's move into Mexicans and the Latinos. He's like, for them, he's like, their nerve endings are actually broken. He's like, so their 10 out of 10 pain is a normal person's 1 out of 10 pain. So he was like, their pain is different than our pain. So he's like, if a Mexican ever says that they're in pain, just know they're crybabies. Don't give them pain medication. Don't help.
You lying to me.
Dead ass, Adisa, dead. Like I was sitting there like, I can take pain pretty well, my dude. Like, no, like, and then that's the thing is like I started seeing it when I was on the ambulance, how they would treat people. And then I remember at the end, I was like, well, what about white people? And he said, what about white people? He's like, you just treat them as you would treat any other patient. He's like, there's nothing I need to talk about. And he went through every single race. He talked about people who were...
He was on cats.
On everybody, but not about white people. He was like, nope, it's fine. And when I became an EMT, I actually started seeing people's lives get affected. I've seen people die because of it. I've seen EMTs refuse care to Black and brown people. because of their fear. And then that's another side is where we have to look at the flip side of it. It's like, okay, EMTs are typically 18 to 21. You have somebody who you look up to telling you have to do and practice this way. If not, you're going to end up dead. You're going to kill your partner. So then it becomes like an instinctual reflex. Okay, I got to follow it.
Right.
And it's just like these subtle ways that we start impacting the healthcare system. So going through EMT, I was like, okay, I need to do something bigger, bigger, bigger. So then that's when I decided I need to become a doctor. So now I have one more year, then I'll be a doctor. But before I'm done, I was like, I need to do something to reach my people. I was like, something needs to happen, something needs to change. So that's when I decided to found Eyewit Wellness. And with Eyewit Wellness, what I'm doing is breaking down all these systemic issues within healthcare and bringing them to light, but not just bringing these issues to light, bring solutions so that we can empowerment in our health. Because that's the thing is the medical field is only 5% Black and then 5% Latino. The chiropractic profession is 1% Black, 3% Latino. As these demographics start to change, as the US demographics start to change, which will probably be in about 20 to 50 years, we're gonna start seeing the change coming from providers. But until then, as patients, we have to be empowered in our health and understand like, no, this isn't for me, this isn't good, this is what I need. You need to understand my health in this way. So the platform is for people who are melanated to start understanding these issues, but also for white providers to look at it, to start finding and seeing their own biases.
Right. And understanding like, you know, just easier, more efficient ways to help. Right. So it's still quarantine. You know what I mean? How long has it been now?
When was February?
Yeah, right. It was like the beginning of March or something, right? When it first popped off. Yeah, so it's been a minute, right? And people are getting frustrated. I'm an introvert. I'm not that bothered by it, but I understand a lot of people are. And then other people, they don't know how to be healthy. They don't know how to be healthier in this time. I found it kind of easy, but I'm a loner. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what advice do you have for people to think about in ways to keep up their health mentally and physically? Just, you know, something small that somebody could do like right now, you know?
Yeah, quarantine's definitely brought out a lot in different people. I feel like people are either thriving or they're hurting.
Or they're just like, boom, it's hard. Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, I definitely went through my pre-quarantine slump where I was like, ooh, time to chill. And then I was like, ooh, too much chilling.
I gotta get my hustle back on.
I was like, okay, that's 2 weeks are enough. But there's definitely small things that you can do. And I think like they sound so outlandish sometimes just because the medical model always promotes like, you have to take this type of medicine, you have to do this type of, you need to be on this type of therapy or this type of drug to overcome certain things. And a lot of it is based on your lifestyle. So if you want to have a healthy immune system, you need to get vitamin D. And vitamin D, you get it naturally from the sun. So it's really important to be in the sun for at least 15 minutes a day. And that's just going to start boosting up your own vitamin D. Vitamin D is your master hormone. So it can every function in your body, but most importantly, your immune function. Not only that, your immune system is actually pumped by your skeletal muscle. So the only way you're going to make your immune system pump up and down and make your immune system move is through movement.
Interesting.
So it's really important that you have to move every day. Like definitely people who are in the house, if you are afraid to go outside, it's really great to go outside and walk at least if you're not comfortable with running, and just stay socially distanced from people. But if you do not want to do that, go on YouTube. There's thousands of free exercises, free workout classes you could do from home. You could do yoga. You could do a little HIIT workout. But you have to do something to move your body for at least 30 minutes a day to circulate your immune system. Because if not, you're more likely to get sick. Not only that, mindset is huge. Huge, huge, huge. The two biggest emotions in life are love and fear. Love, it just encompasses so many things, but fear actually shuts your whole body down. So I'm a physiologist as well. So from a physiological standpoint, fear shuts your whole system down. It shuts down your nervous system. It shuts down your immune function. It actually puts you into a sympathetic response, also known as fight or flight. So your body's not going to digest food. Your body's not going to think about healing itself. It's going to be thinking about protecting itself. So your body's ready to fight or flight. So it's like,
that's deep. That's deep.
All on edge. So it's like if you're stuck in fear, especially if you're watching the news all the time, worried about getting coronavirus, your immune system's shutting down. you're making yourself more likely to get sick. So it's just about telling yourself like, your body's powerful, your body's strong, your body knows how to heal itself.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you're giving yourself the proper nutrition and doing a little bit of movement each day. And that's another thing where people don't realize eating a lot of sugar and eating a lot of salt right now is really bad.
Yeah.
Kind of being
Not as if the hot Cheetos and soda wasn't bad enough already. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, and when you're just home chilling, it's like, oh, let me get a few more snacks. It is
Yeah, more YouTube, a little gaming. You know what I'm saying?
change out the Cheetos for some carrots, just a little chum.
Exactly.
It's just small things.
No, I think that's interesting. Now let me ask. I feel like when I think about music, one of the things that I love about hip hop is a lot of my health stuff I started learning from rap. You know what I mean? Like there's this rapper named KRS-One. He did the song about beef. Now, it's one of the most interesting songs in hip hop ever, the way that it deals with diet, specifically meat eating, right? And I think that was around 1990. I think that was on the Edutainment album. And now, like, I see all these vegan folks in hip hop, and there's so many people between that record, like there's Dead Prez, who's vegan, and I think Common and RZA from Wu-Tang, a bunch of other folks. Like, how much do you think hip hop has impacted diets? Does that sound like it makes sense? I feel like that makes sense.
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, like it's huge because for myself, like I don't know if you remember, not from O'Connell, but I got diagnosed with celiac disease when I
did not know that.
16, and everybody used to make fun of me at O'Connell, like, oh, she can't eat gluten, whoop de whoop whoop, like making so much fun of me for not.
She was like, nah, it's not good.
But whenever I go back and kick it with people, they're like, they know what gluten is because of that, like those instances.
Right.
Now, like you start hearing more about veganism, gluten-free, dairy-free, like all these kinds of diets, mainstream, especially in rap music. And it's getting to the hood where it wasn't before. So people are like actually starting to research, like, okay, like I know this, I know that, because like 10 years ago, being vegan, being gluten-free in the hood, it was like, ooh,
this
like,
fool kind of weird, bruh.
That's white folk type of stuff. That's what everybody used to always be like, oh, you on your white people shit today, huh, Day?
Yeah, right.
Guys, like I literally can't. Like, you don't know how bad I want to go have the tortas with you, but like I can't.
It's all bad. Yeah.
So it's just like, I think rap music always perpetuates everything for mainstream society at all times, and it definitely educates and uplifts. So I think just kind of talking about these dietary changes, it's hitting a lot more people than we think.
Right.
Like going back and looking at people now, I'm like, dang, a lot of my friends are like from the hood, and they're like, okay, I'm going vegan, or oh, I'm a vegan today. And it's like, if you would have thought about 5 years ago, these conversations,
they didn't even have that kind of language in them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's really deep, man. That's really deep. It's tough too, because, especially in this era of COVID, like people say, like, some of the racial biases in the system just get so highlighted because this pandemic is so real. And so you see a lot of Blacks and Latinos dying, and I've been getting frustrated because sometimes I see some of these politicians, especially some in the South, and they'd be like, well, part of the reason that the African-American community is dying from it is because of pre-existing, conditions. But like, they never really talk about, like, when I hear that, I feel like they're blaming the Blacks and Latinos for dying from COVID. Like, you be here, bro.
They created these systems. We're literally dying because you put us in these systems. And like with the activism I've been doing, that's what I'm saying, is like police brutality is just the surface of Black Lives Matter. There's so many systemic injustices that are occurring. Like the biggest one in the United States. So I got my degree in physiology and I minored in health science with the emphasis on the health to wealth gradient, also known as the social determinants of health, and medical racism. So with that, that's when it was things that I saw as an EMT. It was things growing up that, like with my grandparents taking both of them to the hospital all the time. It was things I seen. Once I started getting to statistics, putting names to it, I was like, yo, like this is something that's going on and no one's doing anything about it. Like literally, we're in a genocide right now and no one's doing anything about it, because it's like, from the time you're born they're plotting on your life. They're setting you up for failure. So it's like these pre-existing conditions are all society placed onto us.
Yeah, yeah. Because there's so much stress. There's so much bad food in the hood, right? There's so much joblessness, which is gonna like create, or put more pressure for addiction. You know what I mean? Whether it's alcohol or whatever, and it creates this whole thing, man. It's really ugly.
Yeah, it's wild. Like in the United States with the health to wealth gradient with 99.9% accuracy, they can predict when you're going to die and from what based on your income and zip code. So it's like, who does that disproportionately affect? The most affected by it are Mexican Americans, then followed by Black Americans. So it's like those who are they're at the highest risk for dying at a premature age. And it's like, it's not just, it's food, it's access to healthcare, it's access to income equality, access to education, the school to prison pipeline, the amount of stress that actually is in the hood. It's like your body stays in that sympathetic state. So your your nervous system functions in two ways: fight or flight, or rest and digest. And in a healthy body, you're able to go in between both. You just ate a meal, cool, you could chill, relax, digest your food, something pops off, you can like catch yourself.
Get involved, right?
When you're in a high stress environment, you stay in sympathetics all the time. All the time. And that's really damaging on your whole body. It affects your kidneys, it affects your brain, it affects your heart, it affects your digestive system, like disproportionately compared to the rest of your body. So it's like when you already have all that stress on a system, especially from a really young age, it doesn't prepare your body for success. So it's like Black and Latinos are being most impacted by COVID because of systematic injustices and systematic racism. So it's like these politicians need to do something, not just turn a blind eye like, that sucks.
Yeah, too bad you guys got that, huh? You know what I'm saying? You're like,
I wonder who did that.
yeah, like that. That's crazy. So yeah, it's a trip, man. I struggle with a lot of the things that are happening when I think about like, again, like the role that a lot of rappers played in educating me about different, whether it was eating beef or not eating pork or, just not eating meat at all. Like that, a lot of that stuff is huge in hip hop. And I look at you now thinking about when you were young. I never, when you look at kids, you always go, oh, somebody's going to do well. So-and-so's going to do well. And then you see somebody, who really kind of steps out and steps forward. I feel like there are a lot of young women from O'Connell who have gone on to do really cool lives, have really cool futures. What do you think it is about? Is that accurate, first of all, and why?
Accurate. I can only speak for my graduating class because I still talk to most of my graduating class. So my graduating class started out with 200 students. 69 of us made it to graduation. I think 50 of us walked. From the 50 that walked, 20 of us went to college. 6 of us actually graduated from college. And then I'm the only one to go past the bachelor's degree. There's a few people who have graduated who are looking to go into their master's, but they haven't gone into it yet. So going from O'Connell didn't set us up for success, to be honest. And I think the difference that comes, Adisa's like, really? Like, O'Connell did, it was cracking. It was a lit experience. Like, let's not front. But set us up for success, to
Maybe
be honest. Structurally, no, but I think O'Connell set us up for success with the people that it put us in our lives, like especially you, Patty.
Bruh,
No, like definitely.
Don't get me crying on here.
No, it's true. Even though I wasn't getting caught up, like I would always like, hear your voice in the back of my head, like they don't do that, and I'd be like, all right, and especially like having that love and support system, especially not getting that at home, it's just like it's huge, especially for a lot of these young kids. So it's like
Mama Bev, Lee.
Yeah, like G and my uncle are actually best friends. So every time I would cut out and like leave school, he'd call my uncle. Then my dad would be on my line like, so where you at? Because I know I was bad at Adisa, so I changed the phone number on the school records to my own cell number. So when I cut class, I'd get the truancy call.
Hey, that is a pro tip for you teenagers watching.
So the only time I'd ever get caught up is if G saw me, because G would call my uncle, then my uncle.
And you just busted.
Oh, sometimes my dad would know exactly where I'd kick it at. He'd come roll up like, Yeah. Let's go.
I'm gonna get back. That's hilarious.
But just like in O'Connell, everything was so accessible in the bad ways, you know? Like we didn't
Yeah.
there wasn't like, you know what, let's go take a field trip to a tech company, or like I know we went
Mm,
to a lot of different colleges, especially in Avid, but it wasn't like this is something obtainable for you. It was just like, oh cool, look at what we're gonna go do for the day. We're gonna go tour campus.
right.
It wasn't ever like you can be here, you can
Hmm.
do it. It was just like,
Hmm.
look what how other
You got
people.
opportunities to rise. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't ever like you could do this. So um from O'Connell, the women that I've seen that come out successful, I think it's just the hustle from the city that's like
Mm.
bred in you.
It's that West Coast
That
work
West
ethic,
Coast,
you know. Damn.
like we just hustle different. And I think that's just like, I know for myself, I hustle very different than a lot of people. And I noticed that in the city, I've been able to find people to match that hustle. And I
Mm.
think it's like, especially when you are from the hood, especially in San Francisco with how crazy expensive stuff is, it's like,
Mm.
you got to have a full-time job and at least a few side hustles just to keep yourself afloat. So it's just like
Exactly.
also too, like in the city, it's just like you see how everybody else flows and you're just like, okay, they're hustling like this, they're hustling like this. I need to hustle like that, but double it up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
double
Mm-hmm.
and double. And I feel like San Francisco, it's like a competitive love that it's out there. Where it's like, hey, you hustle like
Mm.
that, I'm gonna get your hustle and I'm gonna
That's
go
true.
harder and I'm gonna build you up so you can hustle like that.
Yep. Yep.
It's like that put on. So I think just being in San Francisco, being laced up on game from a young age, just that, like, I think for me, just seeing how broken the system was something that always made me hustle. And I think what really kicked my hustle into overdrive was when I took Miss Goldstein's class for history. Because
Ghosting.
Goldstein, I remember in class, she was like, I don't know, I'm gonna teach you guys history today. She's like, you guys aren't going to college, you guys aren't gonna use it. And I was like, okay, what's with your attitude? She's like, I'm gonna teach you your statistics, I'm gonna teach you your rights, and I'm gonna teach you how to get started. Because it's also when the search and frisk started in the city. She's like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you guys
Mm-hmm.
gotta get
Yeah,
frisked.
the stop and frisk. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I'm gonna teach you how to talk to the police and everything. And when she started breaking down all the statistics, I remember sitting there and I was like, that's not gonna be me. I
Mm,
was like, I'm not gonna be a statistic. I was like, I'm
mm,
not gonna do it. I was like, I will not fall into it. I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with my life or what, but I was like, this is not my life. I was like, I won't settle for anything less.
Miss
So
Goldstein's gonna cry tonight, bruh.
when she said that in class, like it hit me like in the deepest level where I was just like, okay, I need to
I
change
just saw that like as a 1980s movie, like shot like a 1980s
my
film,
life.
and it came out really good.
The classroom stopped. I was sitting there like, whoosh.
Yeah, you saw Goldstein freeze at the number. You know what I mean?
Not be a statistic. So I think it was just like honestly being blessed by so many people. That's the one thing I can say about O'Connell. It did bless me with so many beautiful people I still
Yeah,
am in love and like have so much love for and in contact with today. So it's like O'Connell
yeah,
for success with the people around me, but systematically to elevate in education, it did not.
yeah. That's interesting. Um, oh, I'm clowning.
It's okay.
So, one of the things I want to run by you though is your activism has been um, in high gear, you know, since the George Floyd uprisings and everything started. You know, what's hilarious is, you know, my man, Uncle Damien, you know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
love Uncle Dame.
That's my dude, man, right? So he coming on soon. I'm gonna have him on. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Uncle Dame is so dope. I'm part of Us for Us also. So
yeah.
I roll with
She
Uncle Dame.
rep. She
Dope.
rep. I had no idea you knew him. That was my point. And one day he mentioned you, and I was like, "Oh, what? You know what I mean?" And so it's interesting when you watch people like from John O'Connell, then you hang with him, then George Floyd pops off, and you was already working on all kind of dopeness when I seen you at Dr. Pete's office, and now you've kind of stepped, you know, fairly into the forefront of like kind of like I think like youth activism in the Bay and stuff like that. Can you tell me like what's your motivation to get involved, and then what's the experience been like on the ground for you?
Yes. For me, I actually started protesting when I was about 16, like doing a lot of the ICE stuff in the mission, like when that all first started. And
Yeah.
my first, or actually my second arrest was when we did the Frisco 5, when we like did that march. I sat in
Yeah.
a paddy wagon on that. So it's like I've been doing this activism since a young age. It's just I think now it's being recognized. Like I don't know, like I don't like using that word recognized because it's like I don't know.
It feels vanity kind of.
Yeah, and
Yeah, but it's not really the intent. I know what you mean.
so it's just like I guess I'm noticed. I don't know, but so like basically how this like all started, it was just kind of like a really crazy kind of like predicament. So like for us, me and Stenaman, Jordan, we actually work together as youth mentors. So we've been working together, mentoring the youth with Us for Us and Uncle Dame for a while now. And then I actually met Uncle Dame about like almost 3 years ago at a City Eats event. So I
Mm.
also founded this organization at my school. Well, I didn't found the organization as a whole, but I brought the chapter to my school with SAPCA, with Student American Black Chiropractic Association. And when I became the president of the organization after it was founded, I was like, you know what, guys, like I'm from the Bay. This is my community. And the only way we're going to start changing chiropractic is if we start taking care of our community and teaching our community about the benefits of chiropractic and getting them in as our patients. I was like, so the only way we're going to do that is if we give back to our community. I was like, we need to go to the City Eats. We need to do the first
Mm-hmm.
Saturday of every month. So for like 2 years, the first Saturday of every month, I
Wow.
have to go out and do that. And that's when I like started connecting with Uncle Dame. And then we ended up bringing the City Eats to my school. So every year my school does a community service day where the City Eats comes out and we go out to Hayward and Oakland, where my school's located in Hayward, and we give out the meals to the homeless. So it was just like always staying connected with Uncle Dame. And then when Uncle Dame started Us for Us, I was like, oh, no doubt, I'm there, I'm here, I'm with it. And then with COVID, school's been online, what's been a blessing because I've been able to be more into my community. And I feel like with chiropractic school being so crazy and so hectic, I
Mm.
really lost touch in my community and I didn't feel as congruent with myself because I just love
No.
being with my
Yeah.
people. And it's like in
Yeah.
chiropractic school, it's like this. It's like nonstop. So with COVID, I was actually able to have a pause and then I was able to get more into Us for Us. And then every Tuesday, we were going out to different projects in Hunters Point and feeding the elderly population who couldn't leave because of COVID.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So it was like going ahead, providing meals and doing stuff like that. And then when George Floyd was murdered, the youth in the group were like, we need to do something. So Uncle Dame was like, okay, we're going to rally in front of City Hall. We're going to hold
Mm.
a small organized protest. And when we ended up showing up, it was really funny. Jamal and his people were all there doing their own protests. We're like, you know what? It's all love. We're from the city
Yay!
up.
It's
Let's pull.
California love out here.
So we like all came together. We like bridged the rallies together. Everybody got to
Oh,
go.
that's cool.
And Uncle Dame asked me to go up there and speak. So I just kind of free flowed some stuff that was on my heart, in my head, and
Mm.
I didn't expect it to touch people in the way that it touched people. And after I spoke, a few people came up to me and just kind of like acknowledged what I said, and like I was just kind of like taken back. I was like, oh, like I just really spoke from the heart. Like I didn't
Yeah.
went like that. And then Jamal and Gunna came up to me and they're just like, what you said was really dope. We're actually leading a protest on Sunday. We would love for you to speak. Like we'll contact you. And I was
Mm.
like, oh, okay, for sure, for sure. And then I had already met Jamal a few times before at different City Eat events because he's also
Mm.
involved in City Eats. And then I was like, for sure, like just let me know. And then I spoke on Sunday, and then that's kind of when all four of us like got together. Steneman, Gunna Goes Global, Jamal, and myself, and we're like, we need to solidify this as a group, and we need to keep applying pressure and keep pushing the narrative. We need to
Mm.
keep the protests going. We need to be an avenue to guide people and just kind of just doing different things, organizing, planning, and things like that. So we just kind of been a group ever since then. But it's just so crazy how it just all navigated and it just naturally fell into place and fell together.
I think it's cool, man. I think it's really cool. I think you know, it's good to see um speaking as an old man, it's good to see young people out in the street. It's been kind of mind blowing for me because you know, like from like a year ago, I'd have been like, man, all y'all do is do Total Recall and all them damn video games and taking the Xanax, and you know what I'm saying? And I'd be like, and now y'all are in the streets setting it off, writing agendas, not being satisfied, using technology to hijack the system. And I'm like, yo, I thoroughly underestimated your gangster. It's really interesting to see so many young people involved. I don't understand why they're involved. What was going on? How are y'all stepping up like this? Because y'all were in y'all phones. You were just putting the little cartoons on your faces on your phone, and now you burning down the whole country getting justice. I don't understand what happened.
What I really think like the shift is like I really got to put it up to God. I feel like the energy of this time right now is just shifted and it's
Unbelievable.
change. Like it's just really the time for change. I think this is the first time white people have experienced discrimination just because of COVID of not wearing masks. And
that's interesting.
That's the one thing I've noticed is when I've gone out, I've seen people have like strong interactions with others because of them not wearing masks. And I'm just like, yikes, imagine being black or brown and that be your daily everyday life. Like, oh, it doesn't feel nice.
What if your skin was the mask and you couldn't get out of it ever?
Right? Like, I didn't pick to look like this, but it's popping. It's popping,
you know? Nobody's mad.
So I think this is the first time white people have ever felt discrimination on this level, where it's just like, okay, people say some things like a hurtful word. Okay, cool, you keep moving forward. But it's just like, when it's a constant in your face thing, and especially with COVID, a lot of people are home. All they're doing is watching the news. All they're doing is watching TV. And it's just like, oh, dang, this happened, then this happened, and then this happened. It's like, okay, we actually need to start making some changes. And I feel like the way that the United States is actually shifting, statistically speaking, by 2050, white people will be the minority in the United States. Latinos will be the largest majority in the United States. So I think
I really got to start learning Spanish, huh? It's inevitable, isn't it?
A little bit.
See.
So it's just like, I think people are like really starting to understand how poorly we've been treated. And I think there's no way to like hide from it or run from it. Where it's just like with other times, like I've noticed it's like, hey, like, well, I got work, like I don't have time to watch news, or like different things start.
We're like, there's a pandemic, we got time.
We got nothing but time. Like
the whole world is on pause. We got a moment.
You're not an essential worker. You're at home. Like, period.
I guess it's time to protest. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you mobbing or you mobbing? Because there's no. There's
no middle ground.
None.
Man, it's just amazing to see so many young people out there sharing their voice, man, and it's beautiful because I feel like my generation blew it, or you guys wouldn't have to be out there. It's my fault.
It's not your fault,
but I'm sorry.
The roadmap is laid out. We just got to keep pushing forward. And I think also too, I think just like generationally, each generation changes and changes and changes. And I think my generation, especially the generation after me, it's very community focused and community centric. Like every single thing is like community, like social media. Sadly, especially now, relationships are very community focused and community centric and based. And that's just like, it's just a society. It's just their energy is just wanting to do everything as a community.
I can't.
I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking through observation because
I can't hang with this. I need a moment.
No lies have been told though. Like,
oh my God.
I really want to see what family dynamics are gonna look like because
it's gonna be bonkers.
But it's just there's a lot of community. It's a really big thing about community for the younger generation, and I think the younger generation is very vocal, and I think the younger generation just really was born, like, excuse my language, without giving a fuck. Like they really like have none.
They don't care.
They don't. They're just like, what's up?
It's so crazy. I don't know what that's about, but I like it.
They're the revolutionaries coming in, like marching into place. Like, yeah, no, we're taking this back. And like, if you also like, I feel like history always repeats itself. The Bible always repeats itself. And like the 400-year curse ended with the Israelites. And then they had to go through this change where Moses freed them. And slavery in the United States, I say it lasted 400 years. It just ended in 2019, from 1619 to 2019. So I feel like 2020 really is that year of change. And Black people are the true Israelites. So it's like there has to be people coming to the forefront to lead and push and propel this movement forward. Even if we want to look at from it like a spiritual standpoint, there is that change in the air. And I think everything that happened before, not that it wasn't valid or that people didn't work hard enough, I think it just wasn't the time. It wasn't the time just yet. I think it was paving the way for this time right now, because we are going to get change.
It's deep because, you know, so much of it is about the technology too, right? Like,
oh, if you,
I mean, imagine like if like Martin Luther King could just like text like Malcolm and Martin, be like texting like
that, their IG lives would go crazy.
Yeah, hey, we're gonna go live at midnight. They would break the whole gram. The gram would just fall over.
Just done.
Just
like Tupac has social media, like, you know him personally, so you know it would have been
crazy. Oh my God. I need to stop. I can't even go into that wormhole. But like so much of it too, I think, is the technology with that attitude, right? You need like this super rebellious attitude plus the technology to connect, to disrupt, things like that. I think that's interesting.
I think it's just everything's in alignment right now. We have the platforms. We just need the media to do a way better job, because that's the one thing I can say.
The media is kind of weak right now. I'm kind of disappointed in fools.
The way the media has been portraying us, especially as a group, that's the one thing I can say. Myself, as well as all the guys in the group, are extremely articulate. And that's the thing, is whenever we stumble on one word or stutter one time, that's that they show. And it subtly starts to discredit you to people in their eyes, like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about, they're stuttering or they're stumbling over a word. And like I did an interview, I forget with what newspaper,
right,
which newspaper it was, but when I actually read the interview, my words were there, but they actually dumbed down my vocabulary that I had used, and the words they didn't make sense when I read it. And I was like, okay, so they're trying to make me sound really ignorant. But it's funny, if they would have fact checked and did their research, it's like, I'm a physiologist, I'm about to be a doctor, so it's like there's nothing.
That is deep, man. That's scary.
So it's subtle things that they do that I know they're mindful of what they're doing. And it's just like small little tactics where it's just like, or they're just also too with the news, like you only get that like 3 to 10 second window of what you're going to say. And I feel like a lot of times they're afraid to use our hardest hitting point, and they'll use like a different point.
Right. You come swinging hard with the A game, and then they like wait until like the G game. You know what I mean? It'd be just like quote you at G. And they'd be like, oh, I thought Dayanara was hella sharp. She came off hella whatever. So you're like, no, I said all this dopeness.
So it's just like, and then especially with us noticing that us as a whole with 4HD, we're going to start making educational videos to put out. So people are able to understand all of our main points, understand the facts behind it, understand the research behind it, and have like a whole content that they can go to. So that way, like the media can't snippet pick it. It's like we're putting this out so people understand each segment that's going on. So we're actually filming later next week to get all those videos in order.
That's deep. So remember when I was talking about hip hop and health, one of the main books that everybody used to talk about was How to Eat to Live by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You know, I think for a lot of Black people in the hood, that was like the first book that they ever read that actually kind of addressed like why you should, you know, eat better. You know what I mean? Yeah. Why having food that's fresh from the earth is good for you, et cetera, et cetera. And what books do you think people should be knowing now? You know what I mean? Because I'm wondering, I'm like, I don't know what health books are dope right now that young people maybe should be thinking about. You know, if they don't know anything about health, what do you suggest?
For all the books about different diets, the ones I read are more like deep into physiology, where it's just like you have to know those like vocabulary terms to break into.
Right.
The best books right now are books about mindset. because I feel like controlling your mindset controls your life. And not only that, your brain controls your whole body. So it's like if your mind is right, your body will be right. So I think like the best book, which I think people don't understand the power of this book, is the Four Agreements. Just because understanding the Four Agreements, like it can avoid so many different things. Like I had I wouldn't say a falling out with a group of friends, but like we had a really big misunderstanding. Then on my end, I was like, oh, I think is happening. I think is happening. And then like each of them on their own end was like, is happening. This is happening. We all sat together and we're like, okay, so this is what I think is happening. We were busting out laughing like, this is what you thought?
Right. Right.
None of it was accurate. None of it was real. It's like all the things we made up in our head. And the Four Agreements are be impeccable with your word, meaning whatever you say, your word is bond, follow through on it, but also be very mindful of your vocabulary, because words cause vibration. So it's like you want to make sure that you're vibing at a good level. And then the second one is don't take anything personally. The third one is don't make assumptions. And the fourth one is always do your best. And I think for me, the biggest one that changed my life was not taking things personally.
That's hard.
I always take things personally all the time. And then I really sat back and it's like, what's that person going through today? Or what past life traumas have they gone through that they're projecting them onto me? And it's not even a me thing.
Or just generational trauma.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
It's wild how like little books like that can change your life. And then I think my other favorite book to read is The Pilgrimage and The Alchemist. Those are both.
Alchemist is fire.
The Alchemist, The Pilgrimage is kind of like a follow-up to The Alchemist, but not a lot of people read it. And The Alchemist, I think that was like one of the most revolutionary books that I read in my life, and I've read it multiple times.
It's so cold.
Deep.
It's so cold. That book is ridiculous.
And each phase in your life, it changes. So like, I'm a very fast reader, so I could read The Alchemist in a day. Yeah. So like, whenever I feel like I need to put myself on game or like there's something missing or lacking in my life, I'll just read The Alchemist. And then I'm like, okay. And each time I read it, I'm like, oh.
There's jewels.
That's what that really meant. So I feel like that's one of those books, like whatever phase you are in life, you can keep going back.
You can find some wisdom in there. No, that's hella dope. And that's really important.
Like the Bible and the Quran, like going to both of those for different sources of wisdom is huge.
Hey, you know what's deep? Are you familiar with the Fast of Daniel? The Fast of Daniel. So like, I was talking with a rapper. And we were talking about veganism or whatever, and he was like, you know, he knows. There's all kinds of sub-vegans, which you know what I'm saying? I'm a very like basic enter the door vegan. I don't have all the, right? So, so he was like, he's talking about someone who was an SOS vegan. And I was like, what does that mean? And he broke down this whole thing, but I'm like, there's too many vegans. I cannot keep up. But then I was like, hey, what do you know about like, you know, the Fast of Daniel? You know what I'm saying? And like, he didn't really know about it. So, you know, we're kind of going back and forth. And like, I'm really kind of blown away because it seems like that's like a vegan diet, ain't it? Isn't that like the essence of a vegan diet? And I think people, because of the way that Christianity is practiced in America, like specifically as it relates to eating to pork, like they don't understand all the healing elements and stuff in the Bible and whatnot.
Yeah, it's huge. Like, I think there's so many different things in the Bible that people overlook, like especially meditation. Like meditation's in the Bible. Alone time is in the Bible. Even going into nature is in the Bible, where it talked about like when Jesus wanted to speak to God, he would go to nature and pray, and he would go to nature and meditate. And I think that's something that nature has so many healing benefits. Like Yale released a study talking about if you spend 2 hours a week in nature, it can expand your life expectancy. It improves your immune. It improves actually your mental health as well. So if you have any mental health issues, it's huge to help with that. And I feel like nature just is a natural healing environment. And I know that sounds like a little like hippy dippy, but it's like, if you just go sit out, like I try to go hiking at least twice a week. And I just like to, like once I get to where I want to go in my hike, I just sit there and just kind of soak it in and just kind of feel like that good energy just kind of coming. And it's just.
No, nature's a big deal.
Different. It's huge. And I think just kind of like understanding what is said in like the Bible, what is said in the Quran, and understanding like this is like ancient wisdom that's been passed down, where it's like, if they were talking about it then, like maybe we should start looking at it now.
There could be something valuable in that.
it all connects.
Yeah.
So just kind of following like those diets, but I think also too is truly listening to your body and understanding what your body needs. So depending on what blood type you are, there's different diets. So I'm O positive blood type. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, the best diet is high protein, medium fat, and no carbs. So
Mm.
for me, I do keto sometimes. Right now I'm doing like the GAPS protocol, which is like a whole different thing in itself to like heal your gut lining. But I
Mm.
go through phases where I will eat meat, and then I will hit a phase where I'm like, I do not need meat right now, and I'll go
Right.
vegan. And I'll stay vegan as long as I feel comfortable. And then once I'm like, okay, I don't feel like my body's healthy right now, I'll go back
Mm.
to eating meat. And I just kind of been fluctuating like that for
Yeah.
5 years. And I just listen to what my body needs. I'm like, okay, today I want steak, and then I probably won't eat meat
Right.
for 2 days, and then I'll go vegan for like a month or two, and then I'm like, okay, let me flow back and forth. So
Mm-hmm.
understanding what your body needs.
I think that's such a deep thing, man, because I think when I was young, even though I was Muslim, I studied a lot of Buddhism, and Buddhism, I think the Dhammapada specifically, really helped make me aware of listening to my body. I don't think that like I'm still like I've started to eat with chopsticks now because it slows me down because I'm just like a savage. I'm like I have no sense of etiquette. You know what I'm saying? I don't pace myself. So
You used to be like
so
2 days, just like
you know what I'm saying? Um, to listen to your body. I was never still, and the more that I've listened to my body, I feel like so much has changed, but I think it's hard for people to know how to begin. Like, what would you suggest for someone, right? You saying listen to your body. How do you, what do you think is a decent step to take to initiate that?
I think the conversation we're having before all of this was meditation. I think knowing how to meditate is a perfect way. Oh, another book I'd recommend is Mastery of Self. It's
Mm-hmm.
also by the same author who wrote The Four Agreements, but it just kind of teaches you how to come in connection with yourself. So like before we started the interview, we are talking about meditation. If I started meditating at O'Connell, because O'Connell had the program to teach us meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember going through the program. I was extremely Catholic at the time. I'm spiritual now, but at the time I was like very Catholic. I was like, okay, it's like devil stuff to like do things
Mm-hmm.
for the church. Like I can't do
Mm-hmm.
it because that's praying to a different God who's not my God.
Right.
And like I had like a lot of like back and forth thoughts about it where I was like, okay, I didn't feel comfortable doing it. Then
Right.
I was actually taught how to meditate, and my mantra that was given to me was the mantra of Om.
Mm-hmm.
And Om, after I studied Sanskrit, Om means the sound of God.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that time, intuitively and deep down inside, I knew it meant something. And the meditation teacher I had told me that the word Om just meant chair, and just to meditate with that sound, and it didn't mean anything. And I tried to
Mm-hmm.
meditate, and I felt kind of something, and I was like, okay, this word means something. This word
Interesting.
actually means something. So then I was like, okay, they're lying to me. I shut it
Mm-hmm.
down. I didn't want to do anything
You let
related
it
to
be.
meditation. I was the ratchet kid in meditation. Every time I meditated, I'll like read my book and flip my pages heck
You gotta
aloud.
be extra loud.
Yeah, or just be like, I'm gonna leave because I'm not gonna do this. So I just felt like inside my intuition knew something was wrong, or like I was being lied to. So I just shut it
Mm.
down, didn't want to do it. It wasn't until I got, I want to say, when I was about 21, I was involved in like a life-changing accident. I was crushed by a gurney. I crushed my pelvis. I tore the muscle that connects my hip to my knee, known as my sartorius. I herniated discs in my back, and I actually lost a lot of function in my left leg, and I almost ended up in a wheelchair if I would have elected surgery. So when all of that happened, I actually entered a pretty deep depression. Like imagine being 21, you can't get out of bed, you can't walk, you just got an emergency.
That's immense.
It was like, yeah, your life's changed forever. And I kind of fell into that. I fell victim to myself, or I started feeling petty for myself. I started feeling sad for myself. I didn't think I could overcome it. And then one day I just woke up and I was like, this is not my life. I like couldn't really use my left leg. I went to the doctors for my follow-up appointment, and the doctor's like, okay, well, we need to schedule you for surgery. That's going to be our next step. He's like, the surgery is going to be 50-50. Like we told you, either you're going to improve or you're going to be ending up in a wheelchair, but you will be wheelchair bound by the age of 50. because you will have to have reoccurrent surgeries for this. And I remember I looked at the doctor dead ass in his eyes and I was like, that's not going to be my life. I choose to be different. And I dragged my leg out and I walked out and I was like, I'm going to change my life. And that day
What?
changed my mindset. I started researching different healthcare modalities. I started researching holistic healing, holistic healthcare, and I found chiropractic. But that's also the same time when I found meditation, and I also found Islam. So I started studying Islam very deeply. I've also studied Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism. Like I love learning about religion, and in a lot of
Isn't it fun? I love it.
it's so amazing. It's just so many different ways, and they all connect all the
I
time.
know. It's really
We're
beautiful.
looking for differences, but it's like their beauty is in the harmony of all of it.
Yeah.
And when I seen that, I was like, okay, meditation. So I started diving deep. I started learning more. I started studying, and I started to meditate. And as I started to meditate, I started to really truly understand the power I had within myself, and how that connects to what the Bible says about the light being within you. And just kind of understanding that you do have control over your life. You do have like control over different things. Like after going through spinal rehab, after going through chiropractic, learning meditation, I'm about to be a chiropractor. I'm walking normally. I'm wearing high heels. Like I said I was going to do it and I did it. And the only way I was able to do that was through, honestly, like all the physical stuff, but the mentality behind it. And the only way you're going to know yourself is sitting with yourself and really being honest. Like I think when people think of this avenue to finding peace or finding peace or health or just wellness, it's just kind of like this portrayal of just kind of like a hippie person.
Yeah, just smiling when there's no reason to smile.
Just kind of like giggles all the time, and it's like, no, like that's not true at all. Like I'll meditate, and if you try to disturb my peace, like I'll fight you. Like it is what it is. Like you can still catch these hands, but at the end of the day, like I got my peace within me.
Please don't fight.
No, I definitely won't. I got way too much to lose. But
yes, you gotta, you know what I'm saying, self-mastery, you know what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying, like, that's the type of vibe and energy I have. So it's like you don't have to be like this super duper hippie peaceful person. Like you can be congruent with yourself, but it's about being honest with yourself. Like you're gonna mess up, you're gonna screw people over, you're gonna do things that you're gonna regret. But it's about owning it up with yourself. And not only just owning it up with yourself, but owning it up with other people too. And I think that's the hardest part, where it's just, I know I've done people wrong, you know, it wasn't my intention, and it's just like how things played out, but it's like, I'll always own up to it, and like owning it to myself, but also owning it to those people. And I feel like the more I was honest with myself and started reshifting my mindset, the more I was able to deeply connect with myself, especially like coming up the way I came up. And I think like the biggest revelation I've had with myself right now is at the age of 18, there was an incident that occurred where my father ended up going to jail, and things like that happened. And that news spread at my undergrad. And it was my first quarter in undergrad. I had just become an EMT. Like I really wanted to change where I had come from. And I wanted to be something completely different. And everybody in the city, everybody who knows me as Day. Like I'm Day. And then once that incident happened, I was like, okay, like I don't want people to know who I am because they're associating me with certain things. And then that's also the same time when the show The Orange is the New Black came out. And her name is Dayanara in Spanish, and everybody called her Daya. So then I was like, cool, rebrand myself. I'm just going to start going by Daya. And then it's funny because that's how you know how long people have known me, is the people who call me Daya. It's like, okay, you've only been knowing me for like the last 5 years. The people who call
You're
me
a newbie.
Day,
Yeah.
you know me.
Those are the OGs.
And then like it became like this whole thing where it's like I felt like I had to keep up this appearance of like Daya being a super duper professional, like always on top of her stuff. And then like Day kind of embodying like how I did grow up in the city and like how I came up. And I think like I kind of exhausted myself going between both of them, where it's like I was creating a discongruency within myself. That's deep. Then finally like having to sit with myself and be like, you know what, like I was trying to run from something that I didn't need to run from.
Yeah.
And then now just kind of sitting with myself and like, especially with all the activism I'm doing, like I tell people my name's Day. And then like my new folks are like, huh? Like, who's this? And it's just like kind of like merging the two. But I think it's having that deep honesty with yourself where it's like, you can't be moved anymore. Like, I think that's like a huge thing. It's like, if you were to come up to me and be like, I don't like your shirt, or like, you're an ugly person, it's like, cool, that's your opinion, that's your values. I know me on the deepest level where it's like, you're not gonna shake.
It's not gonna resonate at all, you know. So finally, before we get off today, I want to ask you advice that you have for young people who are thinking about what they can do at this time. Sometimes I think like when I talk to a lot of the young high school dudes that, you know, like from the high school that I work at, like those kids are like, oh, I'm bored all the time and da da da. And I just feel like I'm always like, but there's so many opportunities right now. You know what I mean? What advice do you have for young people who may not know what to do at this time, where to go at this time, or how to maximize this time?
I think just make a list of everything you want to accomplish in life, what your dreams and goals are, and find out how to get there. Just because you'd never know where life is going to take you and what's going to happen. But I think the most important thing that I've learned, and like, I'm only 25, so I don't have all the answers.
Right.
But I feel like the more you know yourself, the more congruent you are. And it's just like an abundance of opportunities that flow in when you're congruent. Like, it's just that congruency. It's just like attracts like. So I think for young people right now, the most important thing is just staying congruent with yourself. And I think that's really hard in our society when it's like, especially with social media is a blessing and a curse, where it's like you see somebody doing something and it's like you want to emulate that, but it's like by doing that, you're not being true to yourself. And like, I think in our society too, people don't understand or know themselves on deep levels, where it's just like a lot of things are very surface. So like for young people now, I think it's really important to know who they are truly, because once you know who you are truly, you're going to be able to market yourself. You're going to be able to go after whatever you want.
Just stand in your truth.
You stand in your truth. You know what's for you. And I think that's the most important thing, is knowing what is for you and what's not. And you can't know that until you either go through it and you learn like the easy way or the hard way, or you know yourself, where it's just like, before any situation, I just sit there and I evaluate it. I'm like, is this for me? Nah, I'm not going to waste my time or my energy. Or I'll be like, you know what? I feel called to do this, and I'll go and I'll proceed. So I think like for young people right now, that, and also if you're being bored, navigate, read. If you don't like to read, YouTube, watch some documentaries, listen to
exercise.
To the podcast, learn how to meditate, learn a new hobby. I'm sorry, YouTube, you can learn anything on YouTube.
It's a beautiful time for that.
And there's so many different programs that are being offered for free right now. So it's like, take advantage of that. Learn how to code. Tech is huge right now. Learn a side hustle, 1, 2, 3, or 4. Like, think about different ways to bring in revenue. But most importantly, if you want to change things, look to see what all the problems are and think of solutions.
Yeah. No, that's huge. I think, you know, it's a good time for solutions, and it's a good time. People have never been more open. You know what I mean? So before we go, how can people get a hold of you?
Hold of me? Yes. Follow me on Instagram at Eyewit Wellness, and it's just the letter I and then woke wellness. Or you could follow my personal Instagram page at _soy Dayanara, and it's SoyDayanara, and it's soy as in the Spanish word for I am, not soy as in I don't eat dairy. But a lot of people, like, I've been telling people at different events, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're vegan, so cool. And I'm like,
no, it's a little deeper. It's a little deeper.
I am in Spanish, but okay.
So, you know what though, before I go, like, I need to talk to you about Black and Brown unity. This is something that's a real big deal to me. And I struggle with seeing any type of friction between Blacks and Latinos, you know. Like, my family's from the Mission, you know, on my father's side. So, like, you know, I always grew up around, you know, Latino people, and I'm visiting my grandma and stuff, and going to Dolores Park and everything else. And so, like, when I'm, you know, you know, even like LA riots, you know what I'm saying? The blacks in the essays was good, you know what I'm saying? And, you know what I'm saying? It was Rodney King time, it was good. And so I've always loved black and brown unity. It's always been a big deal. Back in the day, Immortal Technique, I was down there in Watsonville with the Brown Berets, you know what I'm saying? Doing Negro Watch meetings and all of that, you know what I mean? So I got that love. And when I look today, when I see BLM happening, it's beautiful. And I think I spoke with Raka from Dilated Peoples about it not too long ago, about just like how important it is that blacks share reciprocity with you know the Latinos and the Asians and the white allies, you know what I'm saying? Like how that plays out is like really crucial. Why is it important to you these days?
Important to me, I think, well, for myself, I am Black and Latina, but I do have to be honest, I'm very, very light passing. So for myself, like growing up, I did always have those identity issues. And I know I'm only speaking for myself from this moment where it's like, my name's Dayanara Thompson. So it's like, I grew up on my childhood before, like I was born in the city. I went to go live in Guatemala and then I came back. So I didn't speak English, I spoke Spanish. And then going through school, it was like mostly Mexicans. So then I'd speak Spanish and they're like, oh, you're not a true Mexican because my father's Mexican, my mom's Guatemalan, Jamaican. They're like, you're not a Mexican because you don't speak Spanish like us. So I'd be like, okay. And then like the white
You
kids are
said
like,
okay.
they didn't want to hang out with me. I wasn't going to force it, you know? And,
Right.
and then like the white kids are like, oh no, you're Thompson, you're black. You can't hang out with us. And then the black kids are like, you're a little light and you don't really speak English. So it's just kind of like this little like isolation.
Like, you're really speaking.
Yeah. Just like, I was always so proud of it just because I
Right.
was mostly raised by my grandparents and my grandpa was just like a strong Jamaican man. And like, I loved my grandpa was like my dad. So it was just like always coming home, seeing him, like how he took care of me, like how he grinded for his family, like how he busted so many different moves. It was like, that was the love I had as a father. It's like, I look at like, whenever I see a black male, like I just see my grandpa and it's like, I see that love. And then for my grandma, it's like this tiny little Guatemalan lady. It's just like nothing but love radiated from her. She didn't speak a lick of English, but hey, like it was just nothing but love. So it's like seeing them together and just kind of like their love and unity. It's just like I know that love is in me. And it's like I want to make sure it stays connected. And I think a lot of people need to understand all of our struggles are intertwined. And we have to not let society or the media or like literally the history that's been written sway our thoughts. Because
Right.
that's another thing too, is like a lot of people don't know about all the things that Mexican Americans went through during Western expansion, how Mexicans were also lynched. A lot of Mexicans were taken into slavery. A lot of
Yep.
Mexicans were deported back to Mexico after the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. And so it's like the struggle has always been both. And like California wasn't a segregated state to Black people, but it was segregated for Mexicans until the 60s. So it's like things like that aren't talked about in the media. Then it becomes like, I notice it becomes like this kind of this rivalry, like
It
who
feels like a competition, and it's so sad.
we just need to throw it to the wayside. And I can say, with all of the things I have been doing, I actually have been getting a lot of pushback from Latinos saying that I'm a sellout or that I only care about Black people, that I'm like forgetting my Latino side. And it's like, no, I've been arrested on ICE protests. Like I've
Right.
been for Black and brown unity, but right now we have to understand that our society has a limited attention span. It like literally we have to address one issue at a time, and that's the thing, is right now the biggest issue that we have to address is Black Lives Matter, because that's systemic racism as a whole. The betterment of Black lives in America right now is a betterment for all of us, and it's like changing that systematically is going to allow us to have the platform and the avenue to change everything else. We can't be broken up and divided right now. We need to stand together and fight each battle one at a time and just keep applying pressure and going that way. And I think that's where people are like, oh, you have to do this or that, or like, now this, what about this? What about this? It's like, guys, like the way our society is structured, we can't be like a dog looking at a squirrel, you know, like we have to stay focused.
You know what I struggle with though too at the same time, right? Is because you know, like when I see different things that happen, like with Sean Monterosa, for example, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, young dude gets killed for having a hammer in his pocket. You know what I'm saying? It's unacceptable. And I struggle with wondering, like, how many black people plan to go to his vigil, how many black people, you know, are consciously thinking of that, and knowing how important it is that we never ever accept that. You know what I mean? I struggle with that. And I struggle with that meaning, like, I'm a loner and I don't go out much, so I don't know how many black people are showing up,
There's
but I
definitely
also don't know how to work on that more. Like, I feel like I need to do that. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that can be something that I do, because um, the police killing of Sean Monterosa was unacceptable.
it was unacceptable. With I know for 4HD, we've tried to go out to mostly all of the events his family's put on, and when we come to events, that's the one thing that is always spoken about, that this is for Black Lives Matter, and that Sean's last text message was a petition for George Floyd. And we actually
Mm,
are planning something very soon in Vallejo next month, for
mm,
Sean Monterosa, to demand justice for him. So that's where like that Black and brown unity does come together, because
yeah.
there it's the same people going to all the different protests in the city, and it's just like the same people showing up for Sean Monterosa, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
he was from the city, I'm from the mission, he's from the mission, you know. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
it is that bond that, like, it's unbreakable. That's your people. And
Yeah.
it's not only that, but it's like we have the Black community coming out. We have Black people speaking up at these different events. So it's like
Yeah.
for Sean, like it is connected, and we are applying pressure for him too. Because that's the thing is, police, when they look at us, they just see brown, whether it be my light, your dark, or even darker.
Whatever.
It don't matter.
And I'm pretty light in the dark category. You know what I'm saying?
So it's just like the police don't care. And like I think especially in the Bay, we have that unity where it's like we're all writing for each other,
Hey, for real.
going
Yeah.
for each other. And
Nah.
it's like what happened with Sean, that's police brutality. That's that fight that we're in right now.
Yeah. You know, I really appreciate the work that you do to bridge Black and brown communities. And, you know, I hope that, like, I don't, and I've been meaning to speak about this for a while, but, like, I don't like seeing some of those black kids when they're harassing the street vendors. You know what I'm saying? I don't
It's
like that.
promoting that because I
It's
have
not okay, man. I'm not feeling it. And I'm telling you, like, if you black and you know anybody involved in that, you should deal with that.
there because
You need to deal that. We're this is YouTube, but we're gonna tell you, if you're black and you see anybody doing that, harassing them Latino street vendors,
you got to
you
stop
should
it.
deal with them. Get involved. You know
It's
what I'm saying?
promoting the disunity, and that's like the thing that when I started protesting, one of my like really good friends, he's Mexican, he sent me a video of 3 Black men harassing a Mexican woman at a gas station, and he's like, why are you sticking up for them? And I was like, okay. I was like, what 3 people do is what these 3 people do. It's not speaking for what everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not going to stop me speaking out. I was like, I'm still Black at the end of the day, regardless of what those 3 people did. Those are
Mm-hmm.
still my people, you know? It's like, it's unfortunate, but it also shows like what the media does. It also shows how systematic racism is here to divide us. So it's like those issues are so deep rooted where it's like there's so many different things. It's like whenever people I hate when people put up those videos because it's promoting disunity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like these things happen and they need to be captured for sure. But it's like, stop being a bystander. You're just as bad as a cop when you're a bystander taking a video. Because I'm sorry, George Floyd had 4 people on his back because 3 were sitting around not doing anything. If you're over there recording on your cell phone, you're being a bystander. Speak up, say something, do something. Don't just sit there and record. I don't need to see that video. I don't want to see my people hating on each other. You know, it just
Yeah.
promotes that disunity where it's like, you have a voice, use it right there. Like, hey, bro, you need to calm down. Don't do that. If it
Yeah.
has to be physical, you know what? Like, it is what it is sometimes, you know, but it's like, you got to do something. You can't be a bystander anymore. Like, we're
Yeah.
at
I think
that point.
that's real for right now. I think that's real for right now. And it's tough, you know, and I think also, you know, it's going to be a long road to the real answers. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think that's for me, like, what is hard to reconcile is like how much patience is just acceptance, you know what I mean? And then how much pressure do you apply? Because you can overdo it, you know what I mean? And you know, it's hard to know what the right amount of pressure is for this moment because there's so many moving parts.
There's so many moving, and then that's where meditation comes in and knowing yourself, where it's like once you know yourself, you know when you've passed that point of being too much.
Right. And you can be like, and now I retreat. You know what I'm
I
saying?
think that point is different for everybody, because that's another thing too with the movement is everybody plays a role. Everybody has different parts. There's going to be people who are going to be on the forefront speaking out. There's going to be people in the scenes doing the research, organizing, doing the logistics, people calling attorneys. There's going to be people who are doctors on the staff helping people out. There's going to be people protesting. There's going to be people ready for the mob. There's
Yeah.
for the back line of just holding a sign. You know, it's like everybody got to play their role. And like there's nothing wrong with whatever role you're in. Like you're there for a purpose, but you know deep down how far you need to go for that moment.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a personal thing for everybody. Like for myself, like I'm speaking, I'm up in front, like that's my role. I like that.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And different people where it's like being in the back protesting with a sign, like popping up every now and then, like that's their role. And it's just like there's nothing wrong, no role's better than the other. It's just like you need to fill that role what you feel called to be in.
Yeah.
And not feel like bad or feel a certain type of way. It's just like everybody's playing
peace with your true self. Yeah, peace with your true self. Well, thank you so much for being on Bishop Chronicles. Anybody you want to shout out before we throw a W on this whole thing?
Shout out, definitely got to shout out Uncle Dame, got to shout out us.
Us.
Got to shout out United Players. Shout out City Eats, and we're gonna shout out 4HD.
4HD.
You know that's.
You know what I'm saying?
Applying pressure, and 4HD is myself, Stunnerman, Gunna Goes Global, Jamal True Love, and last but not least, I gotta do a selfless promotion one last time. We gotta shout out Eyewit Wellness, because Eyewit Wellness is the new platform for Black and brown people when it comes to health. I want to empower you in your health. I want you to take your power back in health. I want you to know what's up. I want you to know the stats, the facts, and not only that, but how to take care of yourself and stay melanated, stay educated, stay woke. And that's what Eyewit Wellness is. So, you know, bam, bam.
All right, there we go. Y'all have a blessed one. This is Bishop Chronicles. You know how we do. It's a worldwide West Side.